We are back at it here in the off season with Jimmy Maverick, and we've got a special one here for you. We are talking about 6 early sleepers. Jim has compiled a list, a big list of 3 players, and I've got a list of 3 players we're going to talk about that we think are going to be sleepers and great value for fantasy football 2023. What's going on, Jim?
Oh man, I'm just enjoying the off season. Obviously free agency was great. We got the draft to look forward to this next month, so I'm excited. I love it. This is my favorite time of year.
If you haven't checked our episode, go back a few. We did some free agency moves. Go back and listen to that. Guys, I want to tell you before we get into these sleepers, it's very important you guys go right now. Head on over to 16roundsplus.com. This is the tool that Jim created that we teamed up on. It's going to be a nice addition to the 16-round draft solution. And Jim, do you want to explain what it is in 30 seconds or less and where to get it?
Yeah, absolutely. So 16 rounds plus will allow you to build a fully customized draft tool based on your league scoring settings, your player preferences, and then also your draft position and the size of your league. It breaks that top 250 draft list out round by round and shows you who the best players are, because each player gets rated on the counselor's Cuddy system, and they score Cuddy points based on how they score on each of those factors. Those points are added up, and you'll know who are the highest scoring Cuddy players in each round of your draft.
Yeah, so head on over, guys, or get at thefantasyfootballcounselor.com under programs. You can pre-order now, use code EARLYLION, save 20%. This is the real deal. All right, Jim, let's dive into this here. Who is the first sleeper that you have here for 2023? And it is a little early. We understand it's early, but it's never too early. We go year round here, and we've got a lot of data in our mind and a lot of information. We want to share that with you to give you guys some real value here on some guys that, again, could really have some upside. So, Jim, who do you got first here on your list?
Yeah, and I just want to say that absolutely the draft can totally change these guys. If they draft some high draft value player into one of these positions on these teams, it's like, okay, we're going to have to reassess. But for right now, I really like these guys. Now, this first guy I want to tell you about, I want to take you back to the year 2020 when he got 143 targets, ended up with 90 catches for 1,374 yards and 9 touchdowns. Now, this guy's been out of the league for the past 2 years. He's been in a little bit of trouble, but he has not been injured. So the guy I'm talking about is Calvin Ridley, who is now a Jacksonville Jaguar and is playing with the young phenom Trevor Lawrence. And I think this is certainly you've got an upgrade situation for the quarterback here. So that's really good for Ridley. And right now his ADP is at 38. That's an early 4th round pick. And this is one of those guys, I got to say, man, those 4th round wide receivers that end up being wide receiver ones are excessively valuable. And so I totally love the idea of going robust RB, pick 1, 2, 3, and then get yourself Calvin Ridley in the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I love Trevor Lawrence this year. This would be a nice combo stack if you get both these guys for decent value, both very top 10 capable fantasy point producers at their respective positions. The only question, again, this is what comes with it, is that, sometimes you got to take some risks. This guy might, and I watch a lot of UFC, right? A lot of MMA. When a player has been out of the octagon for so long, we call it cage rust, right? So he may come back a little rusty. Same type of thing with football. Is he going to be in the groove? Is he going to be connecting with Trevor Lawrence? You've got a lot of uncertainty at this position, but the other wide receivers there, right? Kirk and the other and the clan there and the group just do not, they don't have that wide receiver one, esque to them. I don't feel that they do. So this is where I think the Calvin Ridley opportunity is going to be amazing in the upside. So this is a kind of a roll of the dice pick, but more things are leaning towards this being right and good than it being bad.
Yeah, and it's also good that he has been reinstated. He is now available to participate with the team, so he's going to have the full off season to get back into the groove, which is great. And we have seen in past years when they bring in an elite wide receiver option to a young quarterback, it's an explosion of production, whether it's AJ Brown last year or Stephon Diggs, we've got countless examples of this happening, and it's going to happen this year with Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. So again, bit of a risk. We got to see where his ADP goes. And I could see his ADP starting to rise. Once you start hearing reports of these guys gelling in training camp and summer, it's going to be a higher ADP, I feel. But I still think he's been kind of out of the loop so long that the Sheepses are going to be sleeping on him. So we're going to have some good value. So Calvin Ridley, guys, keep him on your radar. Now I'm going to go with my guy here. This guy, it's not the sexiest pick. Okay. It's not some guy that I'm just like, yeah, I love this guy. I'm crazy about him. This is a bit of a dart throw, but I'm intrigued by this pick. So I'm not again, I'm crazy about this guy. I'm not like drooling over the situation. I'm going to tell you who it is. It's Elijah Moore. Now, again, I'm not crazy, but let me explain why I like him. So Elijah Moore, going into his third season, was a second-round pick by the Jets. They obviously liked him in the 2021 draft. Didn't do too well the past 2 years. So he's kind of that definition of years to wow me. I'm not wowed. They brought in Garrett Wilson. Obviously, there must have been something going on, right? I don't know what it was in the locker room, but 65 targets, 37 receptions. What do you have? 446 yards and 1 touchdown last year. Very lackluster, very boring, right? But now he's going to the Browns, where you got, again, a situation where a guy's been kind of out of it, right? Deshaun Watson coming back, tons of ceiling, tons of upside, where he'll need a young, dynamic receiver. And I'm sorry, but Peoples-Jones is just not the solution. And Amari Cooper is a dinosaur. So again, if they don't draft another wide receiver and they made this free agency move to make Elijah Moore kind of be the future there, I mean, they believe in Watson, right? Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. They paid him a lot of money here.
Oh, yeah. He's like a 100% guaranteed contract. The guy's going to play there for like the next 4 seasons. I think that's what's on his contract. But yeah.
So you got Watson, they invested it, and they're like, man, we got to kind of watch our budget a little bit here. We spent a lot on Watson, but we need to give him a young, dynamic receiver. He was a second-round pick and has got a chip on his shoulder. He's got to be pissed they brought Garrett Wilson. They kind of disposed of him with the Jets. They didn't believe in him. This could be something special, or it could be nothing. Like, I don't know, but I will tell you this, the value will be there. And I think the chip on his shoulder and the upside is exciting to me and intriguing. What do you think?
Well, I got to say, man, I'm glad that you said the years to wow me and I'm not wowed, because that's my opinion of Elijah Moore right now. Now, certainly he was left for dead on the Jets. And so the fact that he's out of there, that's a good thing. Hopefully he's able to mesh better with this new team. And I hope that certainly happens. But my big problem is that looking at Deshaun Watson doesn't utilize a second wide receiver. I looked back at 2020. He had Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks got 119 targets. Will Fuller, his wide receiver 2, only got 75. In 2019, Hopkins got 150 targets and Will Fuller only got 71. In 2018, Hopkins got 163 targets. Fuller got only 45. And Fuller was the wide receiver 2 on that team. So Deshaun kind of hyper focuses on his elite number 1. And so I very much like Amari Cooper because of that, because he's going to get the volume. And I wouldn't call Amari a dinosaur yet. He's still in his 20s. So I think he's fine. But because of that, I'm like, man, what could really be the ceiling for Elijah Moore? And, a 75 to 100 target season is not anything that's going to really move the needle as far as your team goes. I mean, that's basically a flex play bye week kind of player at best. So I'm a little bit, I'm not super excited about that.
Those are very, very good points, but Amari Cooper's been in the league since 2015. This is not a young dude. He's not dynamic. He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. I think he lost his hunger. So the big question is, and I'm asking this to myself, and I'm going to ask it to you. I'm asking it to everybody here. If you guys want to comment, let me know, because I don't know. Nobody really knows. A lot of this is subjective based on kind of the information that we have. Is Elijah Moore, and can he be a true wide receiver 1? Because a second round pick is no slouch, right? I mean, this is the type of caliber that he was drafted on. You add the chip on the shoulder, you add the youth. Is there a possibility that Deshaun says, okay, Elijah Moore has been better, he's younger, he's hungrier, he's my one? There is a chance that could happen. But again, the years to us we're not wowed makes me want to question that that's even possible.
Right. And so let's just see what happens during training camp. I seriously doubt he's going to be able to supplant Amari Cooper. But, I mean, anything can happen in training camp. Right now, Elijah Moore, pick 106. That's the end of the 8th round. For me, that seems a little bit expensive for what his potential upside is this season.
Yep.
Next year, I think might be better because that's going to be a contract year for him. And so I think there might be a little bit more there. But this year, I don't know. I think I'm just going to stay away from Elijah.
So this is early right now. So where'd you say right now Elijah Moore is kind of coming off of on a 12?
106, pick 106. That's in the best ball drafts I'm doing. So
okay, again, very early, guys. And Amari Cooper, he's probably coming off a lot higher, right? Yes.
Oh yeah, Amari Cooper's coming off 3rd or 4th round. Yeah.
So again, Elijah's kind of that diamond in the rough. And again, this is what makes it so fun. We're debating this stuff, we're talking about it, but people want to know. And I don't know, I got this little feeling about this little bit upside feeling with Elijah. So let's move on here to your second guy here. Who do you have here as another sleeper for yourself?
Okay, I've been talking about this guy. I've been trying to convince you, so I'm going to try it again about why Cam Akers has the potential to be this year's Josh Jacobs. So that's
wow me, and I'm not. You're the one talking about Elijah Moore and how he's years to watch, and then you bring up Cam injury Akers here. All right.
Well, okay. So hear me out. Obviously, Cam Akers has not been great, but Cam Akers also suffered an Achilles injury in year 2, didn't play. Year 3, coming back from the Achilles injury. It was a rough start to the season, but by the end of last year, they had gotten rid of Darrell Henderson, and in the final 3 games, Cam Akers had 23 carries, 19 carries, 21 carries, all for over 100 yards. He was the clear wide receiver, clear RB1 workhorse. He got 3 touchdowns in one of those games against the Denver Broncos, who was no slouch on defense. And right now on the depth chart, there's only Kieran Williams and Ronnie Rivers behind him. There's no threat of anybody behind him. They didn't pick up anybody in free agency. So the last hurdle is are the Rams going to spend one of their 3 first, second, third round picks on a running back? Because if they don't, that is a green light for Cam Akers that he is going to be the man. So that's where I'm at with this guy. Plus, it's a contract year.
Contract year is good, but I look at his stats. I'm seeing 9 touchdowns total in 3 seasons on the ground, right? I'm looking at this. I think it's 9. He hasn't rushed for more than 800 yards. Again, injury has been a concern, but again, it's nice to see that upside near the end of the season. And I'm going back here. This is when David Johnson has his breakout year in 2016. The year before that, if you remember, is end of 2015, he was starting to turn things up. Again, I'm just giving you an example from a long time ago. Sometimes running backs kind of come into their own near the end of a season. You see that spike in volume, and then they really take off the year after. And again, this is kind of going into that contract year. So I definitely see the upside. Maybe if I can get him as an RB3 with massive upside, 3rd round value, as part of a robust RB3, robust RB strategy, maybe. I don't personally trust him. I don't feel good. I don't feel warm and fuzzy about him.
Well, here's the thing I got to tell you. First of all, the good news is you do not have to take Cam Akers in the first 3 picks. Cam Akers is going at pick 74 right now. So that's early 7th round. So this guy, if you're going robust RB, would be your RB4.
Okay.
And
wow.
I like that. Because that's kind of what Josh Jacobs was last year. Josh Jacobs was going in about this range last year. And if you got him, you basically had a 50-50 shot of winning your league just by him. It didn't even matter who else you had.
Okay. So Jimmy's feeling warm and fuzzy about Cam Akers. And again, I got to see the draft. Maybe there's a young dynamic rookie in a good situation for that ADP. I may be more intrigued by than, good old unreliable Cam Akers. So we got to see. We got to see how it plays out, really. All right, let's move on to the next guy here. Now, this is not a sexy pick by any means, but the guy I'm talking about here is Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson had one of the worst passer ratings he's ever had in his career, 84 something. It was low, okay? Finished 16th amongst quarterbacks last season. Was supposed to be doing well on paper, like he's on a new offense. It's exciting, revival of his career. But, maybe, again, this is one of those things where we're going to see Russell Wilson completely fall off or kind of bounce back up and have his last hurrah, right? But if you look at it, 2022, he finished 16th amongst quarterbacks. 2021, 15th. 2020, finished 6th. 2019, finished 3rd. 2018, finished 9th. In 2017, he was the number one quarterback in fantasy. So if you look at the past, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, he was a top 10 quarterback for 4 straight years. Fell off in 2021 and 2022, again, having one of his worst seasons last year. So if that was one of his worst seasons, there's really no way but up. And I'm not saying draft this guy as your QB1, which you probably could. He might finish back in the top 10, according to what history shows us, and maybe a bounce back. Or could he have fallen off? But get him as a backup at his best. What do you think? Are you feeling Russell Wilson? Everyone's a little, kind of got this sour taste in their mouth with Russell Wilson in the season.
Yeah, and I think he is a great bounce back candidate for this season. And I blame a lot of his troubles last season on the coaching. I think the coaching was just about the worst I've ever seen in the NFL. And you got to think about his coach now is Sean Payton. Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees and the offense that is just explosive. Sean Payton did not have to take this job. He would not have taken this job if he thought Russell Wilson was washed. And so I think that's a huge vote of confidence on the part of the coaching staff that Russell Wilson is for real and that he is going to do much better this year. And I do like the fact that he is currently the QB 16 going off the board at about ADP 107. Great candidate for your QB2. You always say get yourself a high upside QB2. I think Russell Wilson definitely fits that description, and I would have no problem drafting him at that point.
And the 3 reasons I always say get a backup, even in a 1 quarterback league, and in a 2 quarterback league, always have 3 quarterbacks. Okay. You want to cover that bye week. Okay. I know it's 1 week and you're like, it's 1 week, Joe, but you need a good quarterback to cover you. It's going to get a minimum of 10 to 15 points. I mean, you cannot sacrifice that bye week and say, I'm just taking a loss here. You can't do that. Another one is just lack of performance. We saw this with Russell Wilson. So if you had another quarterback and you had Russell Wilson as your starter, you would have covered yourself. And of course, guys, bye week, lack of performance, and the most important one is possible injury. So these are 3 reasons why I always have a backup. Now, a quick story here, Jim. A couple of years ago, I was in a 2 quarterback league. This is years and years ago, and I learned my lesson the hard way. 2 quarterback league, and I only had 2 quarterbacks, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
you should have had a third.
Yeah, and I believe I believe one of them went down with injury. I can't remember the exact story, but all I know is that I went to the waiver wire to pick one up. I had to cover a bye week, cover injuries, and all the quarterbacks were gone. Like in a 2 quarterback league, they're gone, right? So there's this one guy look on his bench, and he's literally got 3 to 4 other quarterbacks on his bench because we had 8 bench spots, right? So I was stuck, right? So what happened was one guy was hurt. I had 1 quarterback, and I came to my bye week. I had no quarterback to start. So This is why it's so important, guys, to always have depth at that quarterback position to back yourself up. Belt and suspender that position.
And I also want to just mention that with these new era rushing quarterbacks, which are fantastic, your Jalen Hurts and your Josh Allens, those guys have a higher likelihood of getting injured than your pocket passers. And last year, man, I mean, I had Lamar Jackson in one of my leagues, and I did not have a backup quarterback. He went down with that injury, and I was just kind of stuck playing scrubs for the rest of the season because that's all I could get off the waiver wire. That was a big mistake on my part. Likewise, last year when Jalen Hurts went down for like the final 2 games in the fantasy playoffs, dead in the water, man, if you had him as your only quarterback. So definitely back those guys up. There are some really decent options that are after QB, after the first 12 quarterbacks are off the board. There are some good options there. Definitely get yourself one so you cover yourself there.
For sure. All right, let's move on to your last sleeper here. Early sleeper, Jimmy Maverick. Who do you got?
Okay, so this guy, I'm calling this guy is going to be this year's Amari Cooper, a guy that is just left for dead on the draft board, going way late, even though he's a wide receiver 1, just because he had a really crummy year last year. But I blame the fact that he had a bad year last year on the fact that A, he got 0 touchdowns, and B, he had a rookie quarterback who I hate. I hate rookie quarterbacks. I don't ever want to play wide receivers that play with rookie quarterbacks. But I think he's going to have a strong bounce back this year. Diontae Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers, currently going at ADP 72. So it's the end of the 6th round, beginning of the 7th round. This dude had 147 targets last year and somehow did not get a single touchdown. I don't even know how that happens. Although I do have to say that the quarterback only threw for 7 touchdowns last year. So is Pickett going to be better this year? I think he absolutely will be better. Maybe 20 touchdowns. These touchdowns will return to Diontae Johnson. It's almost impossible to get that much volume with 0 touchdowns, but it does happen. So I think he's going to bounce back very nicely.
How about Pickett to Pickens? I mean, that could be the connection. Pickens could be the one. I mean, he is a hungry guy who last year I remember who was complaining he wasn't getting the ball enough. I mean, could he be the one and Diontae be the old news? That's another. Again, we're getting to that situation with Amari and Elijah again. Maybe we're having a situation where Pickens could be the one. We're not sure.
Yeah, we're not sure, but I do have to say that Pickens only got 82 targets last year versus Diontae, who got 147. Diontae is the clear de facto number 1 on this team. He is on the last year of his contract because he only signed a 2-year extension. So Diontae is going to be motivated to show something because, Pittsburgh, they typically do just cycle through their running backs, their wide receivers. Once they reach the end of their contract, they're like, bye. Don't let the door hit your butt on the way out. We'll bring in another fantastic guy. So I think Pickens' future is bright, but don't forget, Chase Claypool also had an awesome rookie year and came out looking really special, making big plays that he always ended up on the highlight reels. But then he just didn't. He wasn't able to get anything after that. So I think it's interesting that Pickens is going at about the same spot as Diontae on the draft board. But I will take Diontae all day.
I like the upside of Pickens. I like the upside of Pickens. Definitely feel safer with Diontae, but Deontay's had his struggles of doing a lot of drops as well. So this is going to be an interesting one. Again, we saw Thielen was kind of the one, and then Jefferson came in. Obviously, Jefferson on another level, not comparing him to anyone else here like Elijah Moore, but he came and just stole the spot. Again, the young guy emerges. And I'm just having that feeling that the Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, the young guy emerges, Pickens over Diontae. There's a possibility. But again, that's why you're getting the value with a Diontae, and you're getting better value. So a lot of stuff. Again, I got to see what happens with the draft. Do they bring in another wide receiver? There's so many questions after the draft that this fizzles out. You have a better indication that you start getting, buzz from training camps and stuff, who's kind of emerging, who these quarterbacks are connecting with, so you can better narrow down and pinpoint to have better draft accuracy. But as of right now, Diontae is the one, unfortunately. It is what it is. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he would have been fine last year if he had gotten like 5 or 6 touchdowns. We wouldn't even be having this discussion. But just because of the craziness that he got 0, and I just like to go back. I know you don't like the guy, but Melvin Gordon in his rookie year had like 300 touches and 0 touchdowns, and nobody wanted him on the draft board the next year. I took him, and what did the guy do in the first game of the next season? He scored 2 touchdowns. I remember that specifically. I'm like, here we go. And he had a great season. So, it's just touchdowns are the most volatile of any stat you could project. It's such an outlier that it's absolutely going to come back to at least 5 or 6. With this kind of volume, you almost can't help but get that many touchdowns. So that's where I'm at with that.
All right. Last one here. This one, again, not the sexiest pick. The value's good, but James Cook. Now, one small issue here, but it's kind of like an issue, but it's not, right? So you're looking at the Bills and you're like, okay, what if they draft a Bijan Robinson or someone like that? I really believe they believe in James Cook. They did bring in Damian Harris, which is a concern. He played 9 games last year. He's a pretty good volume guy. Like, he had 202 rushes in 2021 on the Patriots, right? He's a guy that may be a goal line vulture and may be used. It could be an RB1, but I think they believe in James Cook. They drafted him in the 2nd round. We started looking at his numbers. They started going up near the end of the season. Week 11, they started going up. Like, his attempts started going up. Again, 2nd round pick out of Georgia, 89 attempts last year. 2 touchdowns running, 5.7 yards per carry, not bad. And he had the 21 receptions for a receiving touchdown as well on 32 targets. So he started getting used more. They've shipped off Devin Singletary. Could James Cook be the next Dalvin Cook on the Bills? Again, I think ceiling is limited because they're going to throw the ball a lot. Josh Allen likes to use his legs. And again, you've got this threat of Damian Harris. But I think the threat of Damien Harris isn't as bad as, let's say, a Bijan Robinson or a top elite rookie coming in. I like the upside here as an RB3, maybe a flex play with that upside, but could be a sleeper here and could be the guy that could run with this job. What do you think of James Cook?
Yeah, I mean, I do like his usage as he closed the year. I thought it was very encouraging. So that is certainly a positive. My big issue is just the fact that this is the team with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen likes to vulture those goal line touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so that really limits the upside of any running back that's going to be on that team. One thing I do like is that last year, 52 targets went to Singletary. And those could very easily go over to Cook at this point because Damien Harris does not catch passes.
Good point.
So I think there is some definite value there. But I do see Damien as being a real thorn in the side of getting any sort of consistent production out of Cook. Just because Singletary and Damien Harris are very similar in their running styles. So you could see him on the field more, but then Cook gets all the passing work that can be very valuable, certainly at least flex value. And where is this guy? Did I mark down where this? Oh yeah, he's going at ADP. James Cook is going at ADP 82. That's the late 7th round. I kind of like that, especially if he's going to be like your fourth running back.
Yeah,
I think it's a decent choice.
This has got committee screaming all over it based on the different capabilities of these two running backs. I mean, this is the annoying thing. So, I mean, I'm hoping James Cook gets the full workhorse, but again, they kind of wanted to upgrade the Devin Singletary pass catching back. And I think they did that with James Cook. And then they found their goal line guy and a guy that could pound the ball down the field if they need to with Damien Harris. Smart move in reality. Annoying for fantasy, possibly.
It is annoying. But if I think in full PPR, I think James Cook is a even better choice. I'm not sure I'd be enthused to take him at this point in like a half PPR or a standard points league, but in full PPR, I would be all in on James Cook because of that passing volume.
Well, Jim, there we have it. Elijah Moore, Russell Wilson, James Cook for mine. You got Cam Akers, Diontae, and Calvin Ridley for you. I mean, I love the upside of some of these guys. Again, you have your question marks. So Cam Akers, years to wow us, we're not wow. Just to recap here, Diontae Johnson, I think we've seen the best of him years ago. Russell Wilson, is he the real deal? And I guess this is what makes fantasy football so exciting, is because we have these opinions based on stats, research. There's history to kind of back it up. But what happens on the field and how these players react in real time could kind of contradict all that information that we did. So there is some subjection to it. That's why it's up to you guys to kind of use your gut feeling as well, based on the information data we provide with our analysis. And again, we've been at this for a long time, so we can guide you in the best direction. But ultimately, what happens on the field is up to them, really.
Yeah, and I hope everything goes these guys' way on draft day. I would hate to have Buffalo draft Bijan. I'm just like, no, don't do that. I don't want Bijan to go there. There's many other places he can go, which would be way better for his skill set. Let's see what happens. But where these guys are at right now, I do very much like the potential. So yeah.
And there's way more sleepers in this. So make sure you guys are subscribed and drop a sleeper below. We'll get to you. So thanks, Jim. We appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon, guys. Off-season content continues to roll out. Go to right now, guys, head on over, get 16 rounds plus, 60roundsplus.com, or go to thefantasyfootballcouncil.com under programs, use code EARLYLION and get the app. All right, Jim, thanks. We'll talk soon, guys.
All right. Thank you.
We're out.